Good morning. This Monday, and it's September 15th, and today we leave for our trip to Greece to follow the footsteps of Paul, who, by the way, was martyred at the end of his ministry. He didn't know it was the end of his ministry until that martyrdom came and he went to glory. He writes about what's God's will for the church in 2 Timothy right toward the end of his life, and then Nero had him beheaded. I start that way because we're going to Greece. We're going to be in the footsteps of Paul and thinking about his commitment to ministry and spreading the gospel. And we all know that last week, one of our Americans that did a lot of spreading the gospel and mixed politics with it, Charlie Kirk, was assassinated by a deranged young man up in Utah. This has made a lot of Christians that I know ask me as a pastor how they're supposed to process all of this. Some are doing well with it, some are not. Probably many of them are doing doubly poorly because they watched videos that showed the actual death of Charlie, and that's just unfortunate to stare into that, the physical part of it. But spiritually speaking, I've got several things to share, one big thought each day for the next few days, even while I'm on the trip to Greece. So the first one is, when you try to process this, so you will sometimes ask, why didn't God just stop the shooter? Well, of course, often he does. There's probably many shooters he stopped before this man who wanted to kill Charlie Kirk. And the Apostle Paul was rescued many times and talked about how he knew God was rescuing him many times. And they're recorded in the book of Acts and his ministry. He talks about being in danger from all these different things in one of the early chapters of 2 Corinthians. And he knew God protected him. But when it's time, and God knows how he's going to use your life for you to go to heaven, it might be an illness, it might be a shooter, it might be anything, but all of us are going to die because we are sinners and our lives are brief here, and it's about the eternal gospel. But when we ask, why didn't God just do that? And we want an answer because we want to make sense out of it. This is what's important to remember. God didn't ask us to make sense out of it. He doesn't pay us to think that way. That's God's realm. What he asks us is to trust him and his goodness in all circumstances. And that's what Joseph learned in the Old Testament. All these bad things happened to Joseph. His brothers sold him into slavery. Some tried to kill him before that. Then he was lied about by Potiphar's wife, and he was forgotten by the cupbearer to the king. And it all worked out that God was, in his long way, working things out for the good. And Joseph understood that toward the end. And when his brothers showed up, instead of getting even, he actually said, "You meant to harm me, but God meant it for good." Job believed that about God, and yet it was tested severely. All of his children happened to be in a house at one time, 10 children, and then a tornado came and killed all of them. Job could say, "Why couldn't you have left me one?" His wife was bitter about all this, obviously. And then he lost all his wealth on that very same day. Marauders came and got all of his cattle and all of it, and fires burned up all of his other animals and different. There were some stolen and some burned up. I'm not even remembering the facts, but they're all there in Job chapter 1 and 2. And all the while, God is letting Satan do these things to test Job's faith, to demonstrate that Job cannot be bought, that he trusts in God's love and provision as the creator and the savior God. And it tested Job severely. And his friends come to try to make sense out of it. And these three friends tell Job he must be the reason there's some secret sin God is dealing with. He wasn't. And it wasn't the right answer, and Job knew it wasn't the right answer, but he didn't have an answer himself, so he keeps begging for God to show up. And when God does show up, he never gives Job an answer. He never says, you were part of the contest. You were the playing field between Satan and me. He says, where were you when I created the world? Who are you to ask such questions? I don't pay you to think that way. I'm in charge of all good things. And Job repented from thinking he had a right to know. And maybe that's where we need to land on this first point about an assassination of a Christian in our day. We don't have a right to think about how it should have gone. We only have a right to say, thank you for promising to be the Savior God and for demonstrating in the life of all the people in the Bible that you are always up to good. Just like Romans 8:28 says, God always works together for the good. All things do work together for the good because God is working for those who love him and are called according to his purpose. Charlie Kirk's wife you can find her speech on YouTube. She gave a pretty good talk 48 hours after his murder that showed that kind of faith and trust in God. It's going to be tested even more in the future for her and for all of us. But just remember Job. Remember, God doesn't pay us to think, to figure it all out. He pays us to think of how wonderful and good he is. And when we doubt his love, look at the cross of Jesus Christ, who died at 33, murdered by the Romans, handed over by the Jews, and it was all for good. But it was for our good, right? So we'll have other points about Charlie being in heaven and about God working out things according to the plan of salvation and using what has happened in our life beyond our days. All of that's in future devotions, so be watching for this on Reason for Hope or my personal Facebook, Donald Patterson on Facebook. Hey, remember, today's a gift from God. Whatever you do with it is your gift back to him, and what you do with it will be lasting long after you're gone.